All right, it's Tuesday, January 16th. This is an end of the day SPY recap. And on a shortened week, we start off the week with kind of a two down bar that it looks like it's about to close red. We still have about 10 minutes to go in the bar. We failed to reach our downside target. And that sets up, kind of an actionable signal back to the upside tomorrow should it develop. And overall, it's kind of a bit of conflict, and we were kind of anticipating that possibility when I discussed on the recap video last week that we had a 2 up, 2 down potential signal to the downside, but if it wouldn't reach its target, that sets a very nice trade to the upside. So we're kind of getting that right now, but we're going to have to see if price action leads to that type of signal. In the meantime, we do have kind of if we look at this purple line and we call that the open of the week right here, as long as we kind of stay below that, maybe we continue lower to some of those targets tomorrow. So we'll look for that. In the meantime, that kind of represents the open of the year and the month. So, if we do come down and take that out, we want to get below that purple line to turn the yearly chart red, and then we, stay to the downside until that changes. So anyway, today was with a bit of conflict in the sense that in the weekly chart, we still have a green bar that looks like it wants to go higher. We have quarterly and yearly targets up above at 4,800, and we're holding above the midpoint of that bar. But clearly we're starting the week a little bit red, and yet we have a 2 down signal that didn't reach its target, and that was kind of evident early, and that sort of set the tone for the entire day, quite frankly, in terms of trading opportunities. So if we look at the daily, the intraday chart, we kind of had a wide pre-market range between the blue lines. That this was back, at the end of last week. These two areas here were more the more current pre-market high and low, and right out of the gates, the market kind of took out that pre-market high and had a red bar to the downside. And I discussed how I bought some puts. And in a second, I'll go over some of the trades I made within this choppy environment. Anyway, but the bottom line was it did come down. It took out that intraday, pre-market low, and then immediately reversed. I took a small gain. I reversed the calls here once it came through the midpoint of that bar, anticipating that potential 2 down failure that I was discussing last week. And that ended up working up to the highs of the day and almost to those pre-market highs of last week, and then kind of had a pause, attempt up, and another failure. So this was a small gain to the upside. At that point, you had a failure kind of down in terms of not an orderly pullback that looked like it was going to test those highs again. That set up another short trade here. I actually bought some QQQ puts. Obviously, this index took out the lows of the day. The QQQs just missed it, and that was another little minor gain on the day with an overall kind of a downward bias, but not really reaching a target, which sets up an actionable signal back to the upside. If we can kind of start above the midpoint of this bar today and head up and get a 2 up day, that would be exciting to the buy side, but we'll see what unfolds. So with this choppy, conflicted environment where the big picture's still up, the shorter picture was down, but then the intraday structure kind of reversed from down to up. It was just a tricky environment in terms of opportunities. I mean, as I look at my trades today, and I kind of discussed all of them on videos. I traded the SPY and Tesla and Netflix and Nvidia, and then finally the QQQs. If you look at it, I mean, you had to kind of go around the board. Netflix was clearly a weak stock, and while I was buying the SPY puts out of the gates, I also bought Netflix puts, and that ended up just pausing, never really getting above its midpoint of the first bar high and having a nice move lower. Tesla offered an opportunity for a secondary buy in here that I bought, and it gave you about an hour of I scaled out and had to take a small gain there. Netflix, Nvidia, I decided to buy some puts here once I saw the market kind of failing, and that ended up kind of generally going a little lower after buying puts up in here, but kind of a small gain. It could have been a nice trade to buy it, and that's how the game's never perfect. I mean, in terms of what you select, there was a bunch of stocks. I could see your AMD would have been a very nice buy out of the gate. So, you're never going to get it perfect, but if you would have bought this would have been a great trade, and Nvidia would have been a great trade to the upside. I made a little bit on the downside here, and Tesla I made a little bit to the upside, although, it would have been a better trade buying it here, but it was below the midpoint of the prior day. So I'm not really looking to buy, whereas some other stocks like Nvidia are the strong ones, and then Netflix Netflix, was one of the weaker ones going below the lower yesterday. So I tend to stick with the stronger stocks to the upside, weaker stocks to the downside. But just showing you, and then even the QQQs, like I said, there was a put opportunity here that maybe I thought could take out the lows of the day, and that was a small gain. So overall, not a bad day of trading, but it's not surprising given the conflicted nature of a day, 2 down day that doesn't reach its target with an overall up bias, that you're gonna not really have perfect opportunities. But now we start getting some reference points going for the rest of the week. Again, if we can get a 2 up day, that'll be exciting. Anything to the downside, we will see if we reach that target and what happens there, and kind of go from there. So today, like I said, really on the SPY, the only opportunities, in my opinion, were to try a short trade early, to know that this was the first level of a key inflection point. And once that failed, you could have tried a buy side. That didn't really go anywhere. And then maybe you could have tried to sell right in here, given, a pullback that's not orderly, to test the highs of the day. And then, from the highs. And then once it kind of gives a little bit of a 2 up, 2 down move, you can try one more push lower. But those were the only 3 trades today on the SPY that made any sense, even if they were just small gains. And, that's why with my methodology, I'm scaling out and, setting up kind of no risk trades. And in this case, it, allows you to take small gain after small gain after small gain. But obviously, if it would have really continued up strong, you lose the ability for big gains. But the second half of the position would be very nice if it continues. So, that's my methodology. But anyway, we will see what unfolds now. The weekly chart, we're still above the midpoint of the prior week. We still have targets above, and we have an actionable signal to the upside. So let's see what unfolds tomorrow.